Welcome to another 31 Days of Horror 2017 Toronto After Dark edition. Yes, we are talking about the third film of the festival and the 12th film of the 31 Days of Horror, with something that is... I don't know that I would... Well, not everybody would call it a horror film, but it does have a lot of horror aspects, so I'm including it. But I'm letting you know it's mostly an action film, and that's 60 Minutes to Midnight. The film is essentially takes place New Year's Eve 1999, and essentially a construction worker played by who was it by? It was Robert Nolan was the actor who played him. He essentially finds himself starring in a TV game show where the object of the game is to kill the contestants. So he's home in a secluded house in the middle of nowhere, and essentially finds himself on this weird game show that is... How would you say? It's a little bit, you know how the Running Man, they put them in the game show and they're, trying to get killed. It's a little bit of like that. There's actually, I think there's a lot of nods to the Running Man in here. Obviously, Assault on Precinct 13 comes up because of this is kind of like a home invasion film, essentially, if you think about it. And you also have Die Hard in a sense, as it's only one person in the building, and these guys are attacking. So I will use those three films, put them all together, and you kind of get a sense of what 60 Minutes to Midnight is. It's directed by Neil McKay, who hasn't done much of anything prior to this except for a film called Skeleton Lake, or I think it was also known as Battleground. I believe it was also an action film, so he's kind of stayed in the same aspect. The writer, Terry McDonald, this is the only work he's ever done. And like I said, it stars Robert Nolan. Now, you may not know the name Robert Nolan, and you may not even know the face unless you follow... I mean, he's a Canadian actor. If you follow, the low-budget Canadian horror scene, you'll probably have seen him in a bunch of stuff there, be it the short films or feature films. I think he's been in probably a dozen or so films that have taken place at Toronto After Dark, and I mean, he's been there plenty of times, both in short films and feature films. That's what I know. So you may know him from the film Severance. You may know him from the film Lucky Seven. What else was there? Sick. Skeleton Lake. He was also in Skeleton Lake. Silent Retreat, a film done by a friend of mine. He was in that. Tormented. Try to think. Twisted Pieces. Late Night Double Feature, filmed by another person I know. And then a bunch of shorts and stuff, and then obviously television as well. I mean, there's a lot of television shot up here, so he's in a lot of that as well. So yeah, if you follow any of that scene, you will definitely recognize him. He is essentially the main character in this. Nobody else really matters. Trying to think if there was... I mean, there are other people in this film, obviously, but nobody really of note. So essentially what is happening is... like I said, there's a game show, and it's a bunch of like mercenaries or whatever who are attacking the house and trying to kill the guy inside. And if he survives, which nobody has done up until this point, he wins. And so this guy is ex-military. I'm going to give a few spoilers here. He's ex-military. He has weapons. these are all things that I don't think they were really counting on. And so he puts up a fight. And he's taking out a good number of these, mercenaries going in. So, like I said, it's mostly an action film. Lots of gunfire, fights, punches, people getting thrown through things. You name it, it's in there. And if it had just been sort of like a home invasion and, the action portion, I would have been okay with it. Where the film kind of starts to lose me is the game show aspect of it. It'd be one thing if this was the first episode of this game show, or maybe even the second episode of the game show. But no, apparently this game show has been going on for many, many episodes, so they've been killing many, many different people. And of course, everybody apparently is in on it. That's the only way it works, right? Like, how else do you manage to pull this kind of stuff off? But at the same time, nobody knows about it, right? Like, it's not like it's just televised on prime time or anything like that. It's not like Running Man in that sense, where everybody knows that it's happening. No, this is apparently a secret game show of sorts, and a lot big money type thing. So that aspect of the film kind of didn't work for me. I mean, it could have worked if it had. The writing needed to be worked out a little bit more. They needed to have thought about it a little bit more, I think. The other thing that they have going on, which didn't work, was, and I think it's just a matter of excuse me, it's late. A matter of maybe they weren't thinking. Maybe the director wasn't thinking. Maybe they didn't think that they had covered a few things. I don't know. But there's this aspect where the guy from the game show host shows up on the television and in his phone, whatever, and there's this running music and this running commentary and this running, he's talking, and it's supposed to be like the game show host of Running Man, essentially. And he's kind of talking to the contestant, like letting him kind of know what's going on, blah, 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 and talking to the audience at the same time. And obviously there's cameras, because how can you have a game show without people seeing it, right? So there's cameras and stuff. And it's just that whole game show aspect of the film I don't think was really well done. Which is too bad, because outside of that, I mean, the action is decent. The film is shot pretty well. Robert Nolan does a pretty decent job. He's one of those actors where sometimes I really, really like his performances, and other times I'm kind of like, I find you're overacting a little bit. And he, in this film, he goes, he has moments where it's really, really good, and moments where I think he may be stretching it a little bit. I mean, it's still serviceable. It's not bad acting by, any stretch of the imagination, but, I think it's the writing and the directing that kind of hinder this film. They had ideas there, and they just didn't really work for me. Now, I'm not sure. I mean, this is a Canadian film, Canadian action. I don't know that this. I don't know that it's been picked up by anybody, so I don't know if you're going to be able to see this film. Maybe it'll end up on streaming somewhere. I don't know. So in that sense, even if I did recommend it, I don't know if you'd be able to see it. But I don't know that I will recommend it. If you're looking for an action film, like a low-budget action film, if you really like this is definitely one to check out. In that sense, I mean, just like a lot of things, if you're into low-budget, horror films, low-budget sci-fi films, low-budget action films, if that's your, cup of tea, then, certain films are more geared towards you. Oh my god. So, like I said, this follows more of an action, sort of like kind of like Assault on Precinct 13. More an action film than it is a horror film, but it does have horror aspects to it. This one does have that home invasion type thing going on. It does have the fact that this guy has been put into a game show against his will, essentially, right? So there's that whole thing going on, which to me is something that's more of a horror or sci-fi type theme rather than an action film, but throw in the action and poof, there you go, you get this kind of mashup. But yeah, 99% is action. So if you're into low budget action films, then check this out. I'd give it maybe a 2 out of 5. Again, I'm bumping it up because I think the action was decent compared to some things I've seen it, like especially out of California. California has a tendency to do a lot of really bad low budget action movies, and yeah, this one is a lot better than a good number of the ones I've seen out of California. So kudos to the Canadians there. But at the same time, I mean, check out the trailer. I'm sure it's on YouTube. It'll give you an idea of what's going on in the film without giving everything away. I mean, obviously there's a few twists here and there. Some of them I kind of gave away, spoiler, sorry. These late nights are killing me. But yeah, 60 Minutes to Midnight. Yeah, I put it on my 31 Days of Horror because it has elements of horror, but it's mostly action. Action is good. Maybe it's the horror elements that are bad. Maybe that's the problem with the film. I think that's essentially what I said. Had they just gone with a straight action film, this probably would have been really good. Wow. Well, no, it'd still be a home invasion film, but anyways. Yeah, let me know down below if you've seen 60 Minutes to Midnight. It's a 2017 film, Canadian film. Look it up. I'm sure the trailer's out there somewhere, and if you've seen it, comment down below. I'd love to know what you thought about the film. Again, try and keep it spoiler-free if possible. More 31 Days of Horror to come. More Toronto After Dark Film Festival coverage to come. Till then, thanks for watching. Take care. Have a good one.